Hey, welcome to Cheaper TV, the show that helps you get the most for your money so you get the most for your Jeep. A couple weeks ago, we put a lift on the Jeep. Last week, we put on the larger tires. This week, we're going to install the spare tire relocation bracket. Come join us. So essentially what the bracket does is that it raises the location of the tire carrier up 1.5 inches and out 1.5 inches to accommodate the larger tires. There's two of these little wing-like items that you attach to the side of the carrier, and the purpose of these is so that you can reuse your stock OEM spare tire bumper stops, because you'll put them on these wings attached to your new carrier. Now, a couple of things we're going to do first. We're going to have to remove the existing carrier, but what I noticed in some YouTube videos on other tire carriers is that when this carrier is raised up, this cable becomes a little tight, not only because this gets raised, but also the light gets raised, and that's part of this wiring. So what we're going to do first, while we have this secured here, is loosen these bolts right here, remove them, and just run the wire on the inside of this bracket so that we'll have a little more room here. See how the wire goes along the outside of these studs right here, and what we're going to do is just move them to the inside so that we have more wire coming out down here. And once you have it all tucked in, you can put the screws back in. Now, in some of the other videos that I've seen, people remove the back panel of the tailgate so that they can unplug the wire here, so that they can just remove this to install the new relocation bracket. But there is another way that avoids that step. Let me show you. First, remove this using a 13mm socket. With this, I'll just secure it out of the way so it's just over here. But you can see I've given myself a little extra slack on the wire here. So the next thing we're going to do is remove the OEM rubber tire bump stops, because they're going to be reused on the new bracket. So you just simply pull them out. They just come out very easily. There you go. Then Smittybilt provides these plugs that you just put in the hole. That'll keep the rain out. That's good. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to attach these wing pieces to the new relocation bracket. So essentially, you'll take one of the bolts, the split lock washer, and a flat washer, and the nut is welded to the relocation bracket, and that's what we'll do to attach the two wing pieces. Apply these finger tight, because you may need to adjust these when you put the tire on. They're a little too tight to finger tight. So you just loosely tighten these in, because once you put the tire on, you'll be doing your final adjustments then. So now that I've got these wings loosely installed, I'm going to install the OEM wheel bumper stops. Now when you hand tight these brackets onto the relocation bracket, they do have to go on a certain way because the bump stops go on this flat side, and the relocation bracket has these sides here that are larger holes than on the other side because they have to go around these vent pieces here. There you go. So you use the original bolts that you took that tire carrier off the Jeep to connect the bracket to the Jeep. I'm just going to hand tighten them in for now, and I'll go back later and torque them to 30 foot-pounds. So now I'm going to tighten the relocation bracket bolts to 30 foot-pounds, and I'm going to do it in a crisscross pattern to make sure I evenly distribute the load. Okay, the next thing is to reattach the OEM tire carrier to the new bracket using the bolts provided with the kit. When I install the Smittybilt bolts to the tire carrier, I'm going to use the bolt, lock washer, and then the flat washer. So now I see when I mount this here, the wire shows on the outside, it doesn't go around there. Had the wire been unplugged, I could have fed it behind here. I'm going to unplug the wire. To remove the back panel, it's quite simple actually. You just pull on the plastic trim and the little pins that hold it in place will just pop out, and then when you're done, you just reverse the process. You put the panel in place and push those pins in. Let me demonstrate. There you go. So these are the pins that I'm talking about, and they'll just go back in when we're done. Now, this plug here is for the electric door lock, so we're not going to touch this one at all. But this plug and this plug are for the rear light and the rear camera, so we need to disconnect those so that we could pull the wire out. So with this red plug here, all you have to do is pull the red tab out, and then when you press down on this piece here, it'll unplug easily. There you go. I think there's a little white tab you press on here. So you press on this and pull that apart. And this little rubber grommet right here just pulls out. And then your plugs come out and you can put this aside somewhere. That's what I should have did at the beginning, because I wanted to route the wires in here, otherwise they come out here. So Now that I've done that, I can mount this. So that's better. The wire's behind the bracket, it's not going in front right here. I'll just hold the tire carrier in place with a couple bolts and deal with those wires. Okay, now that the bracket is just held in place with a couple of bolts, I'll go tighten it later. I just want to get this wiring out of the way. The black plug is larger than the white one, so we'll put that one in first. There you go, the rubber plug is in nice and snug, and this wire's got enough slack on it. I'll just put a downward loop in it, so if any water runs down that wire, it'll go down that little drip. Yeah, I like that. Okay, now I'll go and hand tighten all the other bolts to mount this to the carrier, and once I've done that, I'm going to torque it to 24 foot-pounds. Okay, before I go ahead and secure all the bolts, I just thought I should test fit the tire, because you'll remember I just went to the first level, I didn't go to the higher level, and then I also have to see how this will fit. So I'll test fit the tire, and then we'll see where we go from there. Okay, you can't see from there. The light fits just fine. I didn't have to adjust it. It's exactly right at the edge of the tire, which I'm glad. I didn't want the light to be sticking up too high. And there's lots of space underneath for sure. So I'll go ahead and tighten the bracket, and then when I mount the tire, I'll adjust the tire bump stops at that point. Okay, we'll set the torque wrench to 24 foot-pounds. Okay, so I just torqued everything to 25 foot-pounds. The next step would be to mount the tire and then adjust these bump stops, and I think that's it. So I'm going to torque the lug nuts to 59 foot-pounds. And now I'm going to go and do the bump stops just behind the tire to 24 foot-pounds. I'm going to bring the camera around so you can see. Now do the other side. So now it's time to reconnect the rear plugs in the tailgate. finally attach the rear panel. So now I can attach the protective cover for the rear view camera. And of course the obligatory rear tailgate slam test. All in all, I'm pretty happy with the installation and it does seem pretty solid. Let's have a look around and see. Well, that's it. I'm pretty happy with it. It seems pretty solid and it deals with having a larger tire on the back. Well, let's move on to our tips segment. Now for some cheaper Jeeper tips. For this week, it's more of a reminder than it is a tip, and that is if you put a lift on your Jeep and bigger tires, you're going to have to accommodate for that if you also use a little trailer like I have over there. So you'll have to change the number of inches of drop in your hitch so that you can continue to use your trailer like over there. Well, hopefully that was helpful. Now let's hear from our subscribers. And now for subscribers tips. This week's subscriber tip comes from a comment made in our new wheels and tires video. Hey Cheaper Jeeper TV, looks way better. I suggest that you keep your stock wheels for winter driving. It may look silly, but you'll be safe and no salt on those awesome rims. That's what I did. Signed, JL Johnny's Jeep Life. Hey JL Johnny's Jeep Life, thanks for the tip. I happen to have some winter tires on stock rims, so I'll do just that. And I'll also follow a couple tips that I've picked up off your YouTube channel. I'll put a link in the description of this video to JL Johnny's Jeep Life YouTube channel for anybody who'd be interested. And if any of you are interested in leaving a subscriber tip, please feel free to do so in the comments section below, as we may use them in a subsequent video. Thank you very much. Well, that's it for this week's episode of Cheaper Jeeper TV. We hope you found it interesting, and until the next time, be well, stay safe, take care.